Welcome back. You're still watching Daybbreak on this 15th day of November 2022. I'm still with Senators Olekina, Sigei and Onyonka, and we're having a conversation about the role of the Senate in the 13th Parliament. And we're doing this at a time that there's a bill that has been proposed, or a legislative proposal by two members of Parliament, Gichimu from Gishugu and Stephen Mule from Matungulu. They're proposing to create a Senate Oversight Fund within the Constitution and give it 0.001% of the share of national government revenue, which is at the moment 1.76 trillion shillings. That will come to about 17.6 million shillings. And let me begin by engaging you, Senators, about this. And Senator Olekina, this is your second term, so you've been doing oversight for those 5 years. First of all, Senate Oversight Fund, do you agree on the usefulness of it based on the promise by the President? But secondly, this provision of 0.001%, how far does it go to make your work easier?
Sam, let me put it this way. First of all, I have a problem with that statement, as agreed by the President. You know, we have as promised by the President. Yeah. Why should the President be the one promising parliamentarians that I'll give you money? The President doesn't have any money. The money belongs to Parliament. We are the ones who give the President money. So people need to really understand this thing. It goes back to the earlier argument that you and I were having in terms of what really happens on paper versus reality and the perception. You know, one, I believe that if we are really going to promote devolution, everything should be done to enhance accountability in these counties. I've always been a critic of anything to do with the Senate Oversight Fund and also the CDF, because really, as a legislator, my work is to make legislation, you know. But now, when you look at it, we mostly do our oversight in Parliament. We have governors come to Parliament. We also have a budget to be able to a local budget to traverse the entire country, to be able to go and see. Now, when you tell me you're going to reduce that budget by 80% and only leave 20%, you're already killing oversight. When you tell me you're going to give us 17 million shillings to divide by 47 elected senators, that comes down to around 361,000 shillings per year. That's ridiculous. We're not interested. You know, the key most important thing, and Kenyans must understand, is that there's a lot of corruption in the counties. And the Senate does its work by ensuring that they oversight the executive, they oversight the investments which are done in the county. So the first thing we need to ask ourselves is this, and also this new administration must ask itself whether they want to make any progress or whether we are just going to continue with the same argument and becomes a talk show. So the issue of oversight is something that must be taken very seriously. In my view, you know, there is absolutely no reason as to why an MP or a member of the National Assembly should have CDF if they don't feel that there is a need for the senators to be able to oversight on their work. Because more money, and this is why I keep on saying, more money should go to counties. Even this Hustler Fund, I said the other day, if you really care about ensuring that there is equity, you know, because there's never going to be equality. Equity in the entire 47 counties. Send the money to county governments. Let the Senate oversight that. Facilitate the senators to be able to traverse the counties, to be able to go and understand, you know. And I think we as senators, and particularly I'll speak for myself and also maybe on behalf of my colleagues, we are determined to ensure that there is accountability, you know, and whatever it takes for us to ensure there is accountability, we know that we are accountable to the Wanjikos. Those are the people who elected us in office.
Senator, because you said that you don't see the essence of Senate Oversight Fund, but as a senator of Narok, how do you oversight? I
don't see the essence of Senate Oversight Fund if I'm going to be dictated to be given 361,000 shillings to run around a 17,000 square kilometer to go and oversight on projects which are being carried out by the executive.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
At the moment, how do you oversight Narok County?
Currently, the way I oversight Narok County, I've reduced myself to oversighting through the Senate. One of the things that we do is that I either use my resources to be able to go and verify what has been said, or I rely on the Auditor General report to look at what the Auditor General has found, and I may not agree with the system of audit, and this is some of the things that we've raised in the past, you know, but I also go to the control of budget. I visit the control of budget on a regular basis. I look at the budgets. Mm-hmm. I look at what has been proposed, the estimates. I look at the actual expenditures. I also am alive to the fact that there are billions in pending bills that have not been paid. When I go to Narok over the weekend, I use my own resources to be able to go and carry out. I have a staff who some of them I pay through my own pocket. When I'm paid my salary, I divide that with them. You know, some of them I have a small allocation that I can be able to have some office assistants. They give me information. And then I'm also in touch with the community.
How do you use that information?
You know? How do I use that information? I use that information to advise me in terms of policy and legislation development. And also, when it comes to a governor appearing before my committee, I will not be a novice in terms of oversight. I will know what is happening. My office is open. We do have offices in the counties. So now what we want to do, like I'll give you a very good example. Like today, the governor of Narok is supposed to be appearing before the County Public Investment Committee. We are going to look at what the Auditor General has sent, you know, the report. But we will not stop there. The next action we'll take is that we will go and see those projects.
Okay, I hear you. Senator Olekina, your first time at the Senate, but I'm looking at the role of the Senate. Article 96 of the Constitution, the Senate represents the counties and serves to protect the interests of the counties and their governments, and many others that are listed there. And I'm wondering, when you come from Kisii County,
yes,
the oversight you play, do you play it as at the corporate level as the Senate of Kenya,
yes,
or as an individual?
Yes.
And if you're to play it as an individual senator, how then do you do that within Kisii County?
It's actually both. At the national level, like today, there's a likelihood that one of my committees is traveling to Tharaka Nithi, where we are going as members of the committee, because Tharaka Nithi is having a problem where previously the governor and the community at that time, I don't know what the historical and economic reasons were, they actually went and set up the county government and county offices in one given town. Now the problem there is, the governor's come back again, there's a crisis. Some MCAs and a team from his assembly are saying, we don't want where you put our headquarters. Mm-hmm. Can you please come and let's discuss and see whether we can even shift the headquarters from where it is. You notice that I'm no longer now a senator from Kisii. I'm now a senator who's acting of the Republic of Kenya, who is in a committee where I am in the Senate. But I, as a senator, will act as an oversight state officer for the simple reason that the people who elected me, the 9 constituents in Kisii who elected me, expect me to be in a position to tell them after most probably the first 6 months. They're the ones, actually I was telling somebody that in real terms, the senator becomes the kingpin, one of the kingpins. The governor is the center post. But then the Senate becomes a kingpin in the sense that I am expected to interrogate, I am expected to reason out, I am expected to engage the governor, I am expected to evaluate and find out whether the public, and this is the voters in Kisii, and indeed the Kenyan people, have they gotten value for their money? And what we are saying, the reason why we have been talking about the Senate Oversight Fund is not because we are going to, you know, my brother Wakili, somebody was telling me, said, oh, so you'll also be given money so that you can do some schools. No. Our people don't understand exactly what the Oversight Fund is. Right. What we are saying is the senator has been given responsibilities and he's been given a job description by the Constitution. He's supposed to be effective and he's supposed to deliver services by telling the public whether their resources are being used effectively, equitably, and fairly. The problem that you have, this senator is now running around like in Kisii 9 constituencies. My salary is exactly like my member of parliament who comes from Kituru Chache South, where his salary is exactly like mine. He goes to one constituency which has got 5 wards. I go around to 45 wards in Kisii. That is madness.
Do you have mileage allowance?
Absolutely not. I get the same mileage like my member of parliament. Yeah, so I am running the position of being senator, and yet I have no resources. I have no vehicle to go around the 9 constituencies. Nobody gives me fuel to run around the 9 constituencies. I'm supposed to go and hold public hearings in these 9 constituencies.
But help me here, because yes, public hearings, but you're a senator who sits in committees, and Parliament usually works through committees.
Yes.
So if the committee you sit in is interested in visiting Kisii, you will go as a corporate.
Yes.
But then also, at the local level, the oversight is being carried out by the members of the county assembly that have been elected by these same citizens.
And I'm supposed to interface the members of the county assembly.
So what I'm asking is, because the county assembly is already carrying out its specific oversight on the specificities of that county.
Yes.
So how then does a senator have another layer of oversight over Kisii?
Yes.
Yet you're also supposed to be oversighting the entire country from the corporate level.
The constitution, and it was very good the other day, and my brother Wakili will tell you this. I loved what the Supreme Court interpreted, what the role of the member of the county assembly, what the role of the senator does. The governors were telling us that own source revenue, the money that we collect from the markets and the shops in the villages, the senator had no role. You cannot even question. Yeah. You couldn't question where that money was coming and where it was going, because it is not your responsibility. The governors were telling members of the Senate that we could not question how donor funds, where they come from and how they're utilized and what those donor funds are doing. Some tell me, I'm told like now, Kisii County, initially with the support of Governor James Ongwae, who was left, and now Governor Simba Arati, has received about 4 billion shillings to construct a cancer center. Those are donor funds, which the county government will have to pay, and the national government. Now, it is very clear, my responsibility. When those people are going to start constructing that cancer center, I'll be visiting there. I will be listening to what the public is saying in that place. I will be looking at what the Auditor General report is saying about how the money is being utilized. I will make sure that I talk with the governor about it, and I must make sure that I have my own report, so that if the public asks me, are you satisfied with the work that is being done on this cancer center? Okay. And do you think that we have got value for our money? I will tell them, yes, I think you've got value. Or if the money has been pilfered and stolen, I will have to tell them, I believe your money has been stolen.
So do you see a place for Senate Oversight Fund?
Let me tell you, if I am going to sit and meet with members of the public in where, for example, this hospital is going to be built, and of course, you are going to sit and explain what NEMA has said, what the local community has said, whether the issues which were outstanding in that community, I have to sit with these people so that then they tell me, and I have that report, which I will have to table in the House.
But what are the MCAs of that county? What will they be doing?
No, the MCAs will participate, but how much money do you expect the MCA to have?
No, it's not even about the MCAs and the money issue. No, let me just clarify this.
Yes.
It's about Article 96. Go read it. You see, if I'm participating in allocating money, I cannot just give you money and I don't follow to find out how you're spending that money. It's an issue of accountability, fiduciary responsibility. Period.
Sigay, this is your first time in Parliament.
Yes.
How do you distinguish between the role of an MCA and the role of a senator who also has a corporate responsibility when they work as the Senate of Kenya?
Let's begin with Article 96. That is entirely what the law provides as the role of a Senate. You've read it. Senator Olekina here has also said that that is the foundation of the role of a senator, involved in oversight of county funds, representation, but in this context, let's talk about the fund. Let's talk about the oversight role of a senator. And I wanted us to look at it in a different perspective. Are we able to list on those activities where we would call them the oversight activities that a senator is expected to do? from the conversation of my colleague here, Senator from Kisii, he has given us a number of activities which we would call oversight roles of a senator. And it's not going to escape on us the fact that you cannot oversight without resources. You must have resources. That is the basis of the oversight fund, from where I sit. Number two, you've asked the question of what is the role of the members of the county assembly. The Supreme Court in its decision, which is actually the decision that triggered the CDF bill, which is pre-published for purposes of debate in Bunge, and also the inclusion now of the oversight fund in that particular bill, which in my own view, I see it as it was a bait to have the Senate support the CDF fund. We can have that conversation of the Supreme Court decision in a different forum. But then the question is, when you have a county assembly and you have the Senate, their roles are both oversight, but then in two different levels of government. The national level, where the Senate is, the county assembly is dealing with oversight directly with the county government. That decision, Sam speaks of two tier levels of oversight. That is tier one from the county assembly and tier two at the national level, and that is at the Senate. So the place...
What is the role of Senator Sigei in oversighting Bomet County specifically?
Very well, very simple. I allocate the national revenue as a Senate. I cannot allocate funds and say I'm leaving it to the members of the county assembly to oversight. That is illegal. That is not what the law expects me to do. The Senate is involved with that allocation. If they are to follow.
If you allocate funds, you don't allocate funds as Senator Sigei.
He does.
You allocate funds as the Senate of Kenya, which you're a member of.
Yes. And that is where I come in. As Senator Sigei, that's why I'm supposed to oversight the county.
Therefore, if the resources you're allocating to Bomet County and the other 46 as a Senate, the oversight should also be as a Senate, not as Senator.
No.
I think you're simplifying it too much.
Don't look at it in that direction. That I can only do oversight as a corporate entity. There is no way, and it's absolutely impossible, and actually that's not what the law says, that we can only sit back at the Senate and expect the Auditor General to give us a report and we call that oversight. No. I ordinarily is supposed to be able to know we have got these 9 billion allocated to the county government of Bomet. Out of this 9 billion, the county assembly has sat down and in its budget, they have segmented the resources to development, to health, to agriculture, to education, and whatever role that the Constitution under its provision has allowed the county government to do. That is actually, I think, part 2 of the 4th schedule. Now, as a senator, it is my role to go down because that is part of representation. When I'm down there over the weekend, for instance, people will tell you on what projects have been done. You cannot sit back and say, I'm supposed to go and deal with it at a corporate level.
And Senator Olekina, this week, PIC is hoping to meet with the different counties, including your county, Narok, and they'll be basing, or you'll be basing your arguments or discussions on the Office of the Auditor General, the reports they're bringing to you. So if you're to go to Narok to oversight individually versus what the Auditor General is doing, I mean, where do you split the difference?
Okay, very good. That's a very good question. Two things. First of all, I'm elected by the people of Narok County to ensure a fiduciary responsibility. I come to the Senate, I fight for more money to go to Narok County. In the last parliament, I was among the leaders who fought the government to ensure that more money goes to Narok County, and I was able to increase allocation to Narok County by over 1 billion shillings. Now, when projects, particularly this week, the ones that we're going to be looking at, when the World Bank comes in and fund projects in my county, it will be really an oversight on my part if I do not go and counter-check to make sure that those projects have actually been done. Now, being a resident of Narok, I know those projects have not been done. You know, I know what is happening there. But you see, we have independent institutions, which we give the first point of contact to be able to go out there and look at the accounts and say, Ntulele, I see a water tank there on a daily basis. Is there water? No. Have I been able to go to where the source of the water is? Yes, I've gone there and I've seen. So now I want to be able to look at the information that I do not have, which is the information that will be presented to me by both the Auditor General, the Controller of Budget, and also the county government, so I can counter-check that. There's absolutely no reason as to why I should be fighting for more money to go to Narok County when the people of Narok County do not benefit.
Yes.
So my role is to ensure that, and remember, the Senate is the House of Union. Nairobi County has got about 4 million people, but it only has one senator. Narok County has got maybe 1.5 million people, but it has one senator. When you go to Lamu, probably about 180,000 people, but they have one senator. We come, we ensure that there is no equality, but there is some form of equity. So what I do is I counter-check. And my job, and I think my colleague, Senator Onyonka, has been able to tell you the difference between the Senate of 2022 to 2027 and the Senate of 2017 to 2022. During my first term in the Senate, I could not ask the county governor how he spent money that has been allocated to him by donor agencies. In fact, in Parliament, we became a bit clever and we even changed the name. And when I say Parliament, I mean Senate and the National Assembly. We changed the name of the conditional allocation to additional county revenue allocations. In fact, this week, we are debating that additional county allocation. So really, the issue is our people are suffering. I am the ombudsperson of my people. I need to be able to, they need to come to me and they tell me we have got no water. I do not have money to be able to buy everybody water. The World Bank has donated money. The national government, through me, has also been able to send money to the county government. So it is my responsibility to ensure one simple thing, fiduciary responsibility.
Okay.
So that we can continue developing that community. And you had asked an earlier question about the MCA. The MCAs, to tell you the truth, there are a few challenges when it comes to the MCAs. Because MCAs currently believe that they should be given something called Ward Development Fund for them to carry out projects. That Ward Development Fund is illegal. Your job is to legislate. Your job is not to go and carry out the work of a governor. So we also need to be able to explain to the people on the ground so that they do not demand so much from the MCA. Because the MCA is supposed to go and say, my ward, these are the problems in my ward. I'm representing the interests of my people. You, Governor, I'll approve your budget if you consider developing my ward and making sure that you deliver these services to my people. So this week, when my committee, and I sit in that committee, we'll be looking at these investments which are done by the county government. Because those investments are funded both by on-source revenue and also grants given by both the national government and donor agencies. My job is to say, okay, give me those. Let me use a toothpick. And I can tell you, I'm going to use a toothpick to be able to check whether those investments, why are people crying that they have no water when the World Bank has spent over 800 million shillings to ensure that a water project has been done.
Okay.
Sam, allow me to just chip in.
I just wanted to hear from, just note it down. Oh, Senator Onyonka,
yes.
So, and I'm looking at the Supreme Court decision that you have been referring to, including that what the Senate cannot do under the guise of oversight is to usurp the county executive's mandates or to purport to supervise county assemblies. Of course, they're talking about that both the Senate and the county assembly have the oversight role over resources, whether they are locally or nationally generated or even allocated. But Senator Onyonka, so if this, because there has been sentiments about the World Development Fund or the NJCDF, Senator Olekina doesn't believe in them, but if you had to come up with the Senate Oversight Fund, how then do you propose that it is managed?
The Senate Oversight Fund, first of all, is a fund that is basically supposed to be for service provision. It is not a fund that we're going to use to do projects or to even go to a place And I've heard very many people talking about, oh, you know, this is a fund which is most probably going to fight governors. It has nothing to do with that. In fact, even the member of the county assembly, they also need, if we, because the truth is, first of all, let us accept that we have a constitution which has been interpreted by the Supreme Court. What you are reading there is actually an argument on one side of that matter. If you go to the ruling,
this is the judgment.
No, you go to the bottom. You'll see there's an argument because we've read it. If you go to the bottom of it,
go to the orders.
Go and read the orders and see what the judgment says.
I'm reading the judgment of the Supreme Court of Kenya.
No, go to the orders. If you go to the orders.
Okay.
You cannot.
Carry on.
And those orders are very specific and very clear. Sami, it was very difficult for us when I was a member of parliament, which you know I've been for quite a while, to actually accept that reality that the CDF fund is actually a fund that was, and as the Constitution has said, is an illegal fund. The question is, the fear that we used to have when I was a member of parliament, and it is the same fear that members of parliament have right now, is how do you govern a people? You go to the village. You are actually a member of National Assembly, and you have reached somewhere. Then somebody comes and tells you, excuse me, Mheshimiwa, you see this school here, this funeral, you have come. The toilets have fallen. Do you then pick up and go and look for the Ministry of Education officer who's at that place and make sure that he comes to come and fix that problem? Or do you then pick up and go and look for the governor and ask him for funds in case? I'm using it just for the sake of the argument because the governor doesn't deal with education per se, other than TVETs and ECD. What we are saying, Sam, is this. Members of parliament, the Senate, and indeed what I call the third arm of government, we would have to sit and very thoroughly and be very honest with ourselves. Even if we are trying to come up with a constitutional amendment, we will have that amendment and the Supreme Court will still go and rule it illegal. Unconstitutional. It is to be unconstitutional. So we must be honest with ourselves. It's like if you go to the hospital and the doctor tells you, my brother, you are having cancer. Your cancer is going to be terminal. Now, there are two options we can do. You either go for chemotherapy, or we assume that you're going to get medicines and painkillers which are going to last you for a period. Both cases, chemotherapy might push you for 1 year, but this other one might last you for 9 months. We are in a catch-22, between a rock and a hard place. Unless members of parliament agree, and because the issue of CDF and the issue, and all these are funds, all the funds we are talking about, talk about the very basic structure of the same constitution. So if we are going to come out, then let us sit down and be honest and sincere with ourselves and agree. Are we going to conduct the oversight role? Yes. If that is, we as the Senate, we have accepted. For us, we have absolutely no question about what the role of the senator is. Right. We know that.
Right.
Are the members of parliament willing to sit down and actually discuss very sincerely? I mean, there are good lawyers in this town. They are judges. Let them just call the Supreme Court justice. She'll come and tell them the truth. But we don't want people to accept the truth.
Okay.
And that is because getting this money made our governance much easier, because then you have little things you can drop here and there as you are a member of that elected area. But the reality is the Supreme Court has said no. What do you do? We must be honest with ourselves, agree whether we are going to agree whether we are going to accept the roles we've been given. The Senate has an oversight role, the National Assembly has an oversight role, and the County Assembly has an oversight role. How do we bring those roles, the three of them, without overlapping, and make sure that we give Kenyans proper service?
Okay. You know, Senator, you said that I'm not reading the judgment of the Supreme Court. It's an excerpt of the same, and I have the full judgment. And partly it says that paragraph 62, what the Senate cannot do under the guise of oversight is to usurp the county executive's mandates or to purport to supervise the county assemblies. But if you're insisting that I go to the...
No, that is okay.
That's a very good sentence you've just read. It's a point of argument in the sense... But the way you are...
Let me chip in because it's an interesting conversation. The Constitution recognizes two levels of government. It recognizes the national government and the county government, right? Division of revenue, the same thing. Now, when we speak about the role of Senate as an oversight, it does not in any way, as that particular paragraph is saying, purport to usurp the role of the county assembly or the CEC. Granted, the role is oversight. The county is involved in the implementation, right? At my level as a senator,
you will not go and implement.
I'm not going to implement that. What I can do is to oversight and tell the people, tell the public that your resources have been properly utilized or not. That is the only way I can work as a senator to perform the role of an oversight. Now, let me throw the spanner into this conversation. Do we have an oversight fund as it now as a Senate? No. Does the money that is allocated to the Senate as a corporate arm of government, let's say, if I may use that word, do we have an oversight fund? And I can say yes. But the issue is, we are having a conversation to ensure that I perform the role of an oversight of the county government and the national government as a Senate. The parameters with which that proposition was placed doesn't make sense at all. You cannot, out of the blues, put in a 0.001% and say this is an amount that is sufficient to facilitate the oversight role of a senator without, first of all, making reference even to that Senate. Because I'm very sure none of the members of Senate was ever involved in drafting that proposition. We just read it in the media just like any other person. But we do have a reason to seek for that fund to facilitate the oversight role of the Senate, whether as a corporate entity or as an individual senator.
I hear the three of you because you're saying that, yes, you've been elected by these people from your county and you have a responsibility to protect their interests. But I'm still lost at that question of, you've put it right, that at the corporate level, you're facilitated to do your job. That's why you have oversight committees in the House. That's why the Senate itself can summon whichever governor, as also repeated by the Supreme Court. But I'm just wondering if Senator Olekina, Senator Sigei, and Senator Onyonka, and the other 44 are to go to their respective counties to monitor what the counties are implementing, then you come and report to the House? Is it? Are
you really? Let me ask you a question. Are you really listening to what you're asking yourself?
No,
I mean, because you see, I think you're now delving into issues which really will just make you more confused in terms of the oversight role of the Senate. Because why should I give you money if I do not follow? That is not your money. That is the money that belongs to the citizens.
Senator Olekina, I think you're not understanding each other here. Because I'm saying, the Supreme Court has told you that the Senate has the right and power to summon governors to come and explain how they have utilized resources. You will depend on the Office of the Auditor General. You will depend on the control of budget, the reports they've submitted to you. Right? No. Let me. Hold on. So as you do that at the corporate level, how practical is it for all of you 47 senators to go to your counties to oversight and come and report?
It's actually very practical. Let me just demystify this thing further to you. It is very practical. I'm paid some form of a mileage. I go to my county over the weekends. I traverse the counties. I do it differently myself. I collect my money and maybe pay for a helicopter and travel because my county is vast. It's around 17,000 square kilometers, you know? And I do that because I believe that I'm enjoying a salary because of the citizens of Narok. So it behooves me to ensure that there is a fiduciary responsibility. Now, do our people have water? No, they don't. Right now, our people are suffering. You know, Sam, if I was to give you my phone for a day, you will cry. There's a severe drought. Do we have money? Do we have our what do you call it? Our priorities in order?
Even emergency funding.
Do even the issue of funding of those funds, particularly the issue of using on-source revenue at source, you know, they are very pertinent issues that must be really examined by the Senate. If you read our standing orders, if you read the Constitution, the only way that I can feel obligated to continue fighting for more revenue, and that is why I think even when I started talking here, I said that because we supported devolution, because we all know what devolution has done to this country. You know, a couple of days ago, I could see my former colleague, Senator Governor Orengo, opening a fruit processing plant. I could see also a former member of parliament, now governor of Homa Bay, Gladys Wanga, opening, sort of like a milling plant. These are services that goes to the people. Now, if we have, and I said before, if this new administration believe that there is a shortage of houses in this country, that shortage of houses is not at the national level. That shortage of houses is in the counties, because we are moving now towards ensuring that we move from the central government perspective to the local government, to the county government. That is the only way that you will see people develop. Otherwise, we will never be able to solve the problem of rural-urban migration. So there are so many unintended consequences when it comes to the issue of oversight. So if I give, and the first governors, were rogue. You'll find people who are living in apartments here, and then before you realize, they are almost either owning choppers, or they are, if we see the big bungalows they have built and stuff like that. They have some of them in Karen, some of them in, Runda, some of them back in their homes, really. And their people are suffering. So really, in a nutshell, I'll put it this way. We are determined to do our job. We will do our job because we owe it to the Wanjikos, the people who pay our salary, to ensure that the money we send to them, it's really utilized. So we will scrutinize the Auditor General report. We know there are human beings there. We will scrutinize the Controller of Budget report. She will advise us on what these people presented as their budget estimates and what they presented as their actual budget expenditures, so that we can be able to do a balance to see what happened.
The finished product.
And then
let's take a look at the feedback that Kenyans are sharing with us. Then we continue. Via Twitter, Citizen TV Kenya, Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is Daybbreak. We're talking about the oversight in practice. Sawi, you're saying, what's the function of MCA as far as oversight is concerned? This will create a friction between MCAs and Senate. Are they looking for a way to eat as well? It's clear that nobody cares about Wanjiku. That's Sawi's view.
I think that person is confused.
Bob Otieno, since the promulgation of the new constitution 2010, can the panelists, especially Ledama, Lekina, point out any successful oversight they have done in any county and stopped it because of any irregularities or corruption?
Yes.
Okay, just note that down. I'll give an opportunity to respond. The primary role of Senate is to do oversight as stipulated in the Constitution. Senate have done this for the last 10 years now. How come they want oversight funds? This is just a loophole for siphoning money. Eddie Onditi, you're saying, it is only in Kenya where the role of Senate is taken for granted. Counties are swimming in corruption because our Senate is crippled. Let us increase the fund allocation to Senate with a view of putting counties on check. Then the last one, Kipngeno, senators and MPs are becoming clever. According to them, the only way to stop citizens from demanding for services and accountability is to claim that they don't have a kitty. The fact is they have allocations. They just want increments. Wow, those are the varied views.
Let me respond to that quickly so that I don't forget it. I think there was a very good question that I was asked about being a second-term senator. What are some of the things that we've done? Number one, we went to Samburu County, and we had very serious challenges. And following our visit, we were able actually to stop even the governor from continuing acting as a governor, because there was a lot of corruption in the county. That is issue number one. Number two, we were also been able to look at hospitals. I know very well in my committee, on the health committee, when we went in, when we were dealing with the MES, the medical equipment scheme, there were serious questions. We went and saw what happened, and a lot of things happened. Number three, there are so many issues of pending bills. There are people who worked and were not paid. We pushed for an audit of those pending bills, and we demanded that those pending bills be paid. Some have been paid, and we're still pushing for more to be paid. And I think, finally, on the issues that have been raised by the citizens on Twitter, I think it is important for them to understand, because some of those questions, some of them were not really understanding the challenges. Our job is very different. We are the ones who send money to the counties. The MCA's job are supposed to pass the budget. So we're supposed to build the capacity of the MCS to understand their role, because I dare say some of them do not really understand their role, because what they do is that the governors, you know, if you hear the governor saying, my MCS, you know, so that he's properly in control of them. And you'll hear the MCS saying, you know, oh, governor, please give us this, give us this. No, you are the one giving the governor. So really, you need to understand your role. So I think it's important. And that's why there's a first tier of oversight and there's a second tier of oversight. So the first tier of oversight is that you are the person who is there. Okay. You prepare the budget. You pass that budget. The governor prepared a budget. You pass that budget in the assembly. The first tier is ensure that whatever you passed has been implemented. Then when the Auditor General comes in and issues a report, under Public Audit Act Section 35, submits that report to to Parliament, then now Parliament takes on its role to look at it and say, did the money we sent, were that money used as per the plans of the county, or was that money misappropriated?
And Senator Onyonka,
yes,
because of that, look, as Parliament carries out its oversight, at the moment, the county PIC of the Senate, looking at documents from the Auditor General of financial year ending June 2019 or June 2020. And here you are, the control of budget as late as, early this financial year, it gave a report of how the expenditure of the financial year 2021-2022 was, indicating that some counties spent up to 61.9% of their resources on wage bill. Yet the PFM Act talks about a maximum of 35. Talking about wage bill, pending bills to the tune of 99 billion shillings in Nairobi and a total of about 150 across the country. Yet the Senate will be looking at these documents in the past. You're looking at them, but they're from the past. Right True. Now, the PIC is looking at documents of up to June 2019. How better can this be done to ensure that you oversight and take action while officers are still in office?
Thank you. One of the issues that we are looking at as members of the Senate, other than our job of oversighting, you know, one of the other responsibilities is to legislate. And one of the issues that have been discussed severally and engaged by my colleagues, Olekina, and some of the senators who've been in the Senate longer than me, is to ask themselves what is it that needs to be done to make sure that the audit reports are actually, I'm trying to look for a term that is going to explain that they are actually giving you reports that are current. That hasn't been the case. It has been a lacuna that has been used by certain individuals so that, for example, some governors will do certain things. By the time they are crossing over from either their second term or their first term, you find that they have now left the county government, and therefore many of them will assume that you may not even have the capacity to take them to task on what actually took place when they were in office. But the truth is very simple, Sam. The role of the Senate is to make sure that money that has been allocated by the Senate through the National Assembly Budget Committee is utilized so that the Kenyan public can feel that they actually get value for their money. The Constitution was never meant to have the relationship between the governor, the senator, and the county assembly to be adversarial. The Constitution is very clear. We understand our roles. When somebody says that, it looks like we are now going to take over the powers of the county assembly, I cannot go to Kisii and call the members of the Kisii County Assembly and tell them to come and sit in that assembly, and I start asking them, so what happened? Where did you take the money that we sent here? That is, first of all, old school. It's backward. Our responsibility is to take the reports which have been done by independent institutions. My responsibility is to ascertain whether the report which has been written and the report which is available, do I have the capacity to go and, for example, if somebody tells me they have done 16 libraries in Kisii County, Sam, are you trying to tell me I cannot go and see whether those libraries exist? That is the role of a senator. My job is not to go and see, the library doesn't exist, then I come back to the county assembly. No, I will see that those projects do or don't exist. I will go to my report, which has been given by the Auditor General. If that report tallies with the information which I get from my status report, then I have the capacity now to interrogate and actually report what I feel has been happening with some of those projects.
Okay, Senator Sigei.
The last item I wanted to raise is there's an issue that has been raised, Mheshimiwa Olekina,
right,
that CDF money should go through the county government. I have no objection to that, completely. CDF money can actually be released to the county government. Like I think my constituency, former constituency now, would receive about 100 or 150 million. Let that money come from the county government and let a structure be created so that this money can be spread out with the member of the National Assembly acting as an oversight person.
Yes.
And he will be able to actually achieve the same thing that he was achieving when the money was coming directly to an account where he's actually supervising.
But will that create another question there, because a member of parliament oversighting what the county is implementing?
No. The county will not implement. The member of the National Assembly will, in other words, Sam, what we are looking at, which route are we going to pass this money? How do you get money from the national government without affecting the basic structure of the Constitution and with the respect of the issue of separation of powers? That is the issue that we have right now.
Okay. Yeah. Senator Sigei, I want to hear from you because, I mean, you're, quote-unquote, new blood in legislation.
Not new anymore.
So how best do you propose to go at it? Because if you're still looking at reports from a few years ago, some of the former governors are now senators. How do you put them to task for them to respond to some of those questions? Because right now, if you are to raise a question about Uasin Gishu, the person to respond is the current governor.
Doesn't matter.
Thank you, Sam. And that's actually very, very simple and straightforward. Article 226 of the Constitution, 226(5), Article 226, subsection 5, provides that even if you are out of office and you presided over irregular or unlawful utilization of public resources while in office, you are liable, notwithstanding the fact that you have exited that office. Any governor, any public officer who abuses public resources while in office does not have the immunity beyond that office. They will be called upon to answer. If they are culpable criminally, they will be taken to court. That is the basic, and that is what this oversight, or rather that is what we're doing, or what we will be doing as a Senate when we are looking at reports from previous governments or from previous public officers who are no longer in the offices that they were when they abused or unlawfully utilized the resources. That answers, I think, the concern. So that I don't lose out on two issues which were raised by the team of the viewers who were checking on us. One, of course, someone said that Senate has been there for the last 10 years. What is it that has just happened right now that we've realized we need an oversight fund? Another one says, I think this must have been Eddie, that the biggest challenge is resources are taken to the county governments, and there is a lot of corruption that leads to services failing to get to the people. And the third one was saying that, look, we basically need an increment to this particular fund. Now, Sam, when we look at the context of the concerns by the citizen, it is the same thing that we are looking at here. As a Senate, we are saying we have been given a job, we have been given a responsibility. We now want a facilitative element so that we execute on this. And answering also the other question about how do we, in the context of the CDF, my colleague Onyonka has said that, look, this money, we cannot debate or we cannot run away from the goodies that the CDF takes to our people. The development cannot be questioned. It is visible. It can be pointed out. But when the Supreme Court has made a finding, what do we do? Can we ask the national government then to send out this money through the county government as conditional and ring-fence it for a particular purpose? Who then will oversight? Can we use the national government? Remember, I said there are two tiers of government, the national and the county. The roles that are given to the county government and the national government are provided for by the Constitution. Our Constitution, by the way, is a very progressive one, such that even if we are talking about 10 years down the line, we have progressed from where we were when we began in 2010 to 2022. We are still progressing, we are picking out on interpretation and analyzing on the areas where we have not fully complied. Given we need this money for purposes of development at the constituency level, because that is the bottom of the pyramid in any development.
Senator Olekina, final word here. If you're to oversight your county, or rather any other county, and you're raising questions based on the Office of the Auditor General's report or the Control of Budget report, and those are reports that cover the tenure of Governor Tunai, who do you invite?
When you look at successions governments, the new governor that takes place assume assets and liabilities. But in this case, we have a very good scenario. We have the issue of Article 226, subsection 5. The new governor, having taken over, will come in and present and respond to the issues because he's taking over an institution that is already there. So then, when we now follow through and we find that the person who was culpable was Governor Tunai, nothing stops us from also inviting him so that he can be able to clarify the issues. So really, I think our constitution is very clear. And that is why I think governors ought to respect the Senate when they're invited. We know there is a tendency for governors to send excuses. And you see, you can send an excuse, you can say, oh, I'm traveling, or I cannot be able to be there today, and stuff like that, or have another engagement. But just know that it will eventually catch up on you. Because ultimately, the matter leaves the committee and goes to the floor of the House. Once it goes to the floor of the House, then a report is tabled there. It is the entire House that adopts the work of a committee. So my advice, and very simple, is that for the new governors, and also the governors who are now serving their second term, or, you know, you should not be afraid. What you need to do is come to the Senate, present what the Auditor General, come and respond to the additional questions. Because the Senate, and if you read Article 96, it is there to defend, to protect your interest as a county. You know, the interest of the county. If you read Article 96, it's very, very clear. You know, the Senate protects...
Once you adopt that report, and you have adopted several since the inception of the Senate, have you seen any actions coming from that?
Yes, there's quite a lot of actions. There is a lot of investigations. And remember, in our committees, we have someone from the DPP who sits in our committees. We have someone from the DCI. We also have somebody from Treasury. There are a lot of consequences that follows. You know, it is a lot of, it aids with the investigation. And remember, our job is to try to assist these governors. It is really not to come in and punish them. Our job is to try to assist them so that they understand. Because if you read Section 35 of the Public Audit Act, it clearly states the process of audit. It starts with an interview. It goes in, we identify the areas which the auditors are going to investigate. Then it goes into an exit interview. Then you are given an opportunity. You are told, based on our finding, these are the issues. Can you please defend yourself? You're given 2 weeks. When you're given 2 weeks, if you do not respond to the Auditor General then adopts that as a report. Now, we are trying to persuade the Auditor General to move from that. Because when you bring in the issue of either... what are the terms they normally use? They use the terms which is... no. The audit is unqualified, a qualified, opinion. A qualified opinion means something different from an unqualified. An unqualified opinion is actually a much better opinion that any county can be able to have. Right. But if the auditor continues with that trajectory, then we are not really presented with a clear picture of what is happening on the ground, because the auditor is only relying on the document that has been submitted. We are now seeking the auditor to go and look at project-based audits to find out, is what is on paper reflect what has been done on the ground. And in most cases, what is on paper is completely different from what is on the ground. That is the only time we can then be able to really oversight our counties.
All right, Senators, unfortunately, we've run out of time.
A second, 1 second, Sami.
That
I really wanted to plead.
Give them.
I wanted to plead with my colleagues in the National Assembly who want to bring the amendments to the Constitution and everything. I want to plead with them to seriously consult with many of us. For example, in Kisii, we have got a county that has got nine sub-counties, And we have a section called, an area called Gucha. They have got 4 constituencies, and they've been demanding for them to also have their own county. If the members of the county assembly, members of National Assembly are not going to consult us in the Senate and consult with many of the stakeholders, whatever they're doing is a waste of time.
Okay. Closing, Sam, just allow me to close on this one. The importance of this report by the Senate, it has a lot of serious issues. One, it deters future governors or future office holders from doing the same, because if a report is negative, it's negative. It also is supposed to, in my view, affect future allocations. If there is a governor who has abused resources and the report is bad, they should not be allowed to. Exposing them also to the public allows people to deal with these issues. And I believe it is acting as an advisory. It's part of now the performance by the Senate in its advisory role.
All right.
Thank you.
Senators, we are out of time, but I like what you said last, Senator Olekina, that the Auditor General should also now look at the projects. But it's also the same thing that you're saying the Senator should also be looking at, so we might have a lot of forms of oversight.
You just have a problem with the senators.
I don't have a problem with the Senate. Senators, Senator Ledamo Lekina, Senator Wakili Hilary Sigei, and Senator Richard Onyonka. Now, why are you standing? Thank you all for making time for us of this conversation. My name is Sam Gituku. See you some other time. We'll continue to have this conversation. Bye for now.